Hi, I'm Wendy from ShinyHappyWorld.com. I've already shown you how to layer your quilt pieces together, your back, your batting, and your top, and now I'm going to show you how to quilt those on the machine. So we're ready at the machine, and the first thing you want to do is prepare your machine. I make my stitches just a little bit longer for quilting, and you also need to adjust your tension. What I've done is I've threaded the top of my needle. The top thread is a pink thread and the bottom thread is a blue thread, because I want my stitching on the top to blend with the top of my quilt, and on the back of my quilt I want the blue thread to blend with the blue backing. But that's a really helpful thing for you to do, even if you don't want to use two colors, to do that while you're adjusting the tension. What I did is I made a little quilt sandwich here with the top the same exact batting that I'm using in the quilt and the bottom, and I ran it through at different tensions. And what you're looking for, see how you can see a little bit of the pink thread coming through to the back of the line of stitching? These are various tensions that I tried it at. What you want are those two threads to lock together in the middle of the sandwich. So I finally got it right down here. You can see on this last row, all you can see is the blue thread. You can't see the pink thread peeking through. So that means I've got the tension right, because on the same thing, on the front, you don't see any blue thread. That would mean I got my tension too tight. So that's the first thing you want to do, is get your tension adjusted and get your stitch length adjusted to where you want it. And then you're just going to start sewing some straight lines. Just like when we were layering the quilt together, you started in the middle and worked out to the sides. That's the same thing I'm going to do here. I'm starting in the middle and I'm working my way out to the sides. So I'm starting right at the edge. And I'm going to back stitch a little bit. And I'm going to start out by just following that seam. That's called stitching in the ditch. And now, I'm not going to pull it out, I'm just going to turn it around. My next row, I'm going to run right down the middle of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this pin out. And just stop when you get to the pins and take them out. So I started in the middle, and now I'm just going to work rows all the way out to one side. Got to that end. I'm going to take it out, spin it around again, and I'm going to go in the ditch again. And I'm kind of stabilizing things with my hands. See how I'm making kind of a box with my hands? That just helps to hold everything smooth again. The pins are mostly holding it, but you want to have your hands in there holding it a little bit too. And I'm just going to keep working my way all the way across the quilt. I'm not going to show quilting the entire quilt, but I'm just going to do this entire quilt in long stripes. One thing to keep in mind on your quilting is to keep it the same density throughout the quilt. You don't want to have one area quilted with all of your quilting lines really, really close together and then have another area where they're really far apart. They don't need to be exactly the same everywhere, but overall on the quilt, you want the density of your quilting to be about the same. Because what'll happen is where the quilting is very dense, it'll tend to pull everything together a little bit. It'll actually shrink as you quilt it, and it's going to shrink more in those really densely quilted areas and then shrink a lot less in other places, and your whole quilt will have kind of a warpy, wobbly look to it. So keep your quilting pretty consistent, pretty even over the whole top of the quilt, and you'll be good. So that's how you machine quilt your quilt. Just remember to keep that quilting even over the surface of the quilt. That's going to be the main thing that's going to make it look really nice when you're done. Next up, we're going to learn how to bind that quilt. That's how to finish that raw edge. I'm Wendy from ShinyHappyWorld.com. See you next time.